Big Safety Podcast with Vance and Bart.
It's a trap. There's no comfort fitting in a fake safety that no one believes in.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We haven't been canceled yet.
We haven't been canceled yet. Episode 2 might just be published.
We are working on being canceled.
If you all are hearing this, then we have not been canceled, or you've stored this prior to us being canceled.
That's true.
So today I think we will talk a little bit about cancel culture. So I'll go ahead and give you a good one for today, Vance. Today, Gina Carano. Are you familiar with her?
That is the big tough chick on The Mandalorian. And I think she was in Deadpool? No? Maybe?
So you are familiar with her body of work.
That's right.
So she posted something on the Twitterverse, Instagrammableverse, and I see a screen capture here in front of me, and I'm going to read it in its entirety. This is the post that got her fired. So just for those who are listening, there's an image of what appears to be maybe some folks running from maybe the SS, it looks like. And then it has this written above it. It says, Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. And then it has this quote, because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? So I'm just going to go ahead and say the things that are the most obvious takeaways from that. If we just look at it in a vacuum, like what I actually think of this, before we kind of go into how this could get somebody fired, I think first off, it's once we have a podcast that's been established for a little while, I think people will come to understand this about us. But I think let's go ahead and make some things explicit. Maybe first off is that someone's political views and someone being a Jew is absolutely different. There is a difference between something you cannot help because you're born that way and things that beliefs that you espouse, right? So I definitely see that there is a marked difference between those two things. So I am already a little bit out of agreement with this post itself, but I don't think that's really what we're going to talk about here. I don't think we're necessarily going to talk about how this post is right or wrong. I think it's more about how the spirit of this is very much about questioning, and it doesn't seem to be offensive at all. Or mean-spirited, really, so much as questioning, and it's powerful enough to have gotten someone fired. So, what do you make of that?
Well, first, I want to go ahead and offend some people really quick. And so the Zionist belief is now I'm speaking about Zionist in its true form, not what the news thinks it is or your typical neighbor thinks it is, but what a Zionist really is. So your Zionists believe that a Jew is a race, right? And they aim to prove it, but yet have never been able to. I personally believe that Jews, being Jewish, is a religion. Being somebody that converted myself, I think that it's a religion. Maybe that's self-serving, but I mean, they call it a religion. It's classified nonprofit, as a religion. I don't think it's a race. Okay. So that changes things when you try to say you're born free and you choose to be religious or not, and what religion. Just like, I guess, if you choose to be political, what politics, whatever, right? So I'd have to disagree with you on that from a non-Zionist position. But if I were to take what your typical neo-conservative or neo-democrat believes about Jews and be a Zionist about it, then yes, I would say, you're just born that way, right? So, and then people will say, oh, well, you're raised Jewish. Well, you're raised to be a Republican or a Democrat too, if your parents are, right? It's the same fucking thing, right? But her quote was powerful in the sense that it brought something to light that I haven't seen on any mainstream, and that is the rat culture that we have today. The Karens and they're just happy to destroy their neighbor over something that does not affect their life at all.
We would call them narcs.
Right. I saw it plain as day when the COVID thing hit at first, because there were people. We had a neighbor that had a flood in their house, and they had to call an emergency plumber. And this was during the 2-week shutdown that Georgia did do, by the way. So everybody wants to get on to our governor for, not shutting down the state and hate on him for that. Well, no, he did shut down our state, and that he did not have the power to do that. Yes, he cranked it back up faster than most, but he didn't have the power to do it in the first place. Shouldn't have done it. It was evil that he did it. He doesn't deserve his position anymore. But nobody does.
I was about to say, did he before?
Yeah, nobody deserves any power over anybody else in their private property. But yeah. So a flood. They called a plumber. Plumber comes over. You're not supposed to have contractors at your house. You're supposed to just let your house rot and just wash away while you're waiting for a year later for COVID to be over. I mean, it's ridiculous. And people were like, calling, and even some of my more sane neighbors were like, "God, did you see, Chuck or whoever the fuck it was? They had a contractor over. Well, did you ask him why? No, but you're not supposed to. Well, their house was flooding. They had a pipe burst. Well, they still shouldn't have. So you wanted them to turn their water off until indefinitely, or if they didn't know how to turn it off at the street or whatever, just let their house destroy itself? What did you want them to do? Well, yeah, I guess if it's an emergency, right? Oh, yeah, it was. And I think that's how they get you, right? They make you think that everybody who does something against the narrative or even looked optically like it's against the narrative, it's automatically evil. So you never think about a scenario where it's necessary, right? You don't think about, does this problem outweigh this problem or whatever, right? They don't want you to ever do that, because that's freedom of thought. That's freedom of choice. When you say, oh, I have a risk here, but this risk I deem less or more worthy, right? And then when they get you to that point where you're like, oh, this is the most important because the news has been telling me this, they also tell you that it's right for you to impose that risk to reward on others. And to do that is to save others' lives, right? Or, yeah, in the most extreme circumstances, that's what they say. You're saving people's lives. It turns out everything they told you in the beginning was completely false, completely wrong on how the virus worked and whatever. But those people don't now say, oh, I'm sorry to everybody that I weighed the risk to reward wrongly on you. They've got a contractor redoing the roof right now, right? In fact, the person I'm talking about does.
So I think that's an interesting thing to dig into, the idea that we don't really understand their motivation there. Were they, in fact, let's call it tattling? Is their desire to be a tattletale due to them wanting to do something for the greater good? Is it because of that? Because you're right in that was the narrative, right? If you are, locking down and masking up and whatever it is, that's for the greater good. It's saving lives. Sure. I think we're good there. I think the jump, though, and I don't want us to be too presumptuous, but do we think that that's what the motivation was? Do you think people were telling on other people because they thought they were saving lives?
No, I truly believe it's just the natural inkling of the human race to want to show dominance upon other humans. Just that, ladder stepping, right? So your social position in your neighborhood or whatever, like if I can dominate my neighbor, then I'm higher, right? It's built into our brains, the way that we work, right? And when you let that animal instinct outweigh your compassion instinct, right? These are the things that happen. So when I don't know my neighbor, which I don't know a lot of my neighbors, I tend to be standoffish, whatever, right? Basically, if it wasn't for my son, my oldest son, probably wouldn't know any of them, and I'd be happy with it. But when you're standoffish, it's a lot easier to want to dominate somebody who you don't know, right? I've said hi to them, right? But I don't know them. And then now you're the more important person. I think a lot of it's that, or jealousy or whatever, right?
Right. The jealousy thing might be interesting to pick out, because is there a resentment there? The idea that, oh, well, I've adjusted my life in such a way that I'm not going to do those things. And if I can't, then you shouldn't either.
Right. And then we can't talk about this without discussing those, the study at Berkeley, the study, then the multiple studies in Europe where you were getting results like 70% of people were willing to administer lethal levels of electrical shock to a person across the table from them just because they were assured that they had no liability, that they were being told to by a person of authority.
And let's underscore lethal. The word is lethal here.
Yes, they were made aware of the level of electricity that could be lethal, and they were willing to gradually go up and then go above that. And a lot of them did have to be reassured that they were not liable. Like, I'm being told to by a person of authority, and they were still willing to hit the button. Okay. This is a huge amount of the population. In every study, women would do it more often than men, but the men were not far behind. There were some studies that broke up races and whatnot, and there were always variances, right? But I think it was all within the window of air or whatever, But it was always in the 70s to 80 percentile. In every study I've looked at, and I've looked at a lot of them, but they make me sick to look at them. Like, I have to remind myself how the evil that I'm dealing with. So I have to look up these studies online to remind myself that these people aren't sane.
Well, and those are interesting too, because it's not something that they're doing really on their own. It's not out of their own desires, right? It's something that they are being directed to do. The fact that they don't stop is interesting, but these are not folks who would, like, the world is not full of 80% psychopaths who are out there inflicting near lethal amounts of pain onto other people day in and day out. If so, our population would be nowhere near what it is today, right?
Well, we are in a world that these people are willing to do this.
Right. I think that's the distinction. And I think that's where a rational person would go, oh, well, that's not that bad. People would be just killing every day if that were the case. But the distinction is that they're not being directed to. When being directed, there's a high likelihood that they would.
Yeah.
They're more worried about the repercussions than the act itself, right? Mm-hmm. We've constructed this society in a way that there are consequences and people continue to weigh those. Whereas the second that they're able to get away with inflicting even a minor inconvenience on another person, they're willing to do that. Right? We fantasize about that with cinema, right? Like the Purge. Mm-hmm. The Purge, the idea that everyone is talking about what would happen if everything was legal, which is, maybe we could do an episode on that as well, because it just has an interesting premise.
Oh, yeah. We can roll through the Purge, because my wife has made me watch all of them. And I'm like, that wouldn't fucking happen. And
you're like, that's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
And it also works on this presumption that things are inherently illegal, and then, positive rights and stuff, all that.
Yeah.
We've talked about before, but when that is our fantasy, then clearly there's something going on. And this is not me doing, armchair analysis of all of the films that we watch, but it's just something that we know is floating around in there. So I do worry, because I think we give ourselves as a species too much credit for being inherently good when we likely are not.
We're not. Yeah, we're very tribal. I think that's some of our best qualities come from the fact that we're naturally tribal, and some of our worst also come from the same thing. But I want everybody who's listening to do just a little look back at their life. Whether if they're ANCAP now, especially, you got to look back. Remember a time when you weren't. Remember a time when you were in high school and you were a new driver and you would bitch about everything that the other drivers would do, whether it affected you or not, right? Especially the things that didn't. Remember back to a time that you saw somebody run a red light, that nobody was coming. They turned on the red or whatever, and you saw blue lights kick on. And you were like, ha, got him. Because most of us have done. I've done it. Those kind of things I actually remember periodically throughout my life that I haven't come to terms with since I have adopted the non-aggression principle, and I truly feel guilty about even that. Just getting joy from that, and I think I think most people listening here are probably libertarian, maybe not ANCAP, but somewhere close. And I think we all should look back on our lives and remember the little things that we've done that were very much like Karen, very much like the little kid throwing a rock at the Jew, or very much like the guy who didn't throw any rocks at the Jew, but he was willing to, talk shit about him to all the other neighbors. They added to it, right? Just letting that seep in that, the red light didn't hurt anybody. Like when anybody coming, they just ran through a light that happened to be the color red. And then you're happy that they got their money stolen, their time stolen away from their families, or whatnot, what have you. I mean, a lot of people who get pulled over are people who really will affect their lives to pay a $200 ticket or whatever. Like, it'll affect a lot of their life. And for me to get joy from that is disgusting. And I shouldn't have ever done it, but I did. So everybody listening, think about that. Think about the time you got joy from somebody being hurt that did not deserve it.
And is it resentment? Is it jealousy? Because when you think about that, when you think about the times you found joy in someone being pulled over, was it because you had this sense of, hey, I'm playing the game, you need to play the game?
It's exactly what it was. It was like, I fucking hate sitting at that red light when nobody's coming to, but I do it. It's exactly what it was.
And I think maybe that's where a lot of this is some combination of resentment and jealousy and things like that, because that's why we see cancel culture only really permeating in what I would consider what would you call the celebrity sphere, that area. Yes, it will happen with some folks who are in power, even if it's a leadership position within a company or within some other small organization. But people who have very little power do not find themselves being canceled, right?
Yeah. If you're not affecting any change or any real thought in people, or not enough people, you're not worth their time.
And of course, that's the counter argument, right? The counter argument is, if we're going to cancel anybody, it should be the person who has the biggest platform and the biggest influence. But that also is going to be the person that you're likely the most resentful of, the most jealous of, right? Mm-hmm. Someone who has, and I think it goes both ways. So Gina Carano here, I think let's say I'm a woman and I think that she's attractive and I'm jealous of that, then I would probably be upset by her.
Mhm.
And similarly, if she were hideous and unattractive, but somehow also got famous, I would be upset that someone who's not even as attractive as I am got famous as well. So there are millions of ways to skin this particular cat, but all of them ladder up to the same feelings of inadequacy within ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and then you can look at what the news did to her when she said these things that were enlightening. I mean, because the news has been spouting to turn people in, right? Even our president has asked to turn people, right, since he became president. So the fact that she said something about it, uh, was it? It made really good sense. So we can't let that happen. So what they do, they made sure that every tweet that they pulled up made it look like, I don't know whether she was a Trump supporter or not, but it made it look like she was, right? Because to be a Trump supporter is to be a terrorist today, right?
So says the FBI, right?
Yeah, I mean, so fuck, dude. I mean, I hate to say it. I don't want it to be true, but when you say, when we go back to, I don't think we were recording when we were talking about this, but the rebel flag, right? Down here in the South, a lot of people weren't looking at flying the rebel flag like it was making people feel inadequate because they were black or whatever. In fact, in the 70s, there was a black NASCAR driver that was very good, championship winning NASCAR driver that had one on his car. I mean, in the South, at one point, it was about the South because the Klan was flying their own flag then. It was only when the Klan had to go underground that they were like, we're not going to fly the Klan flag. I'll put up a rebel flag and you'll know. And then, it started in the I'm talking about in the South, it started having these connotations. But fuck, where were they going with this? I don't know where I was going with this. I just got lost.
Maybe something around the sense that you're getting canceled because of a symbol, even though your intent is not to be.
Right. Yeah, I think so. So you see all these people getting upset about the rebel flag, and then the people who are supporting the rebel flag immediately go to, oh, here's where I was getting at. All right. So if you're calling everybody who has a rebel flag on their truck a racist, and then not only calling them a racist, but denouncing them, and they might as well be hanging black people in there if they had no intention of ever doing that and being a normal Southern person. They just thought, like, I fucking hate the North, it sucks up there, I'm proud of the South, which when I was a kid, there was a lot of people who flew a flag like that's what it meant to them. Today, I think there's a lot less of that. I think if you fly in it now, you're either just like the middle finger to all the people with their race culture bullshit, or you're actually racist. Probably 50-50, But when I was a child, that's what it was. That's what you end up with, though. You end up with, fuck you, man. Like, you can call me a racist, I'm gonna start acting like one. you're less intelligent people. Which I'm sorry, we go through public school. That's what you're gonna get most times, right? That's what you're gonna end up with. So if you call every Trump supporter a terrorist, you might end up one day, like you keep pushing the fucking envelope, you might end up with some goddamn terrorists, some real fucking terrorists. Not like, holy shit, they let us into the Capitol, let me take a selfie. You might end up with a real motherfucker. You know what I mean? You might end up with somebody who really hurts people. And it's not, and I can't sit here and say, like, it's your fault it happened, but it's not your fault. Like, that person had to make their decisions too. I believe in self, self-ownership and whatnot, but you're pushing people's psyche. These people are scared. Including myself. I will leave, but a lot of people can't. Like, I'll always make it, whether I got a job today or whatever. I always find a way to make enough money. Like, I'll be fine, and I'll leave. I'll leave if I got to, and if I can't leave legally, I'll find an underground way to leave. I'm really good at that kind of thing, but a lot of people aren't. And a lot of people don't think like that. A lot of people haven't planned shit out. They're scared.
And we're not asking questions, right? When we think about how we're making those terrorists, we're making those threats. When we think about how we're generating some sort of a response, it's because the narrative is, they don't deserve your understanding. They don't deserve your sympathy. They don't deserve to have their voice heard. Same thing with, the school shooter vibe, right? These people who've been radicalized in any way, left, right, up, down, doesn't matter. Radicalized in any way that they would, shoot up a place. Never mind any of that is staged, false flag, whatever. Anyone who's legitimately doing it, I'm talking about that, right? The idea that someone can be pushed to such a limit that they would commit atrocities.
And speaking of that, let me just, anybody who doesn't think that Hollywood had something to do with that, watch the movie Three Ninjas. I just watched it. Holy shit. I remember that little song that me and my friends used to sing before people shot up about, the poor teacher getting shot. Yeah, so watch Three Ninjas by Hollywood.
Oh, Tum Tum.
Oh, Tum Tum. Yeah. You go ahead.
Were you more of a Rocky or a Colt?
Fuck. Probably a Rocky. I would have just smashed before I was a father. I'd smash my head into a wall until I was dead just to win. So,
yeah, fair enough. So you're more of a Colt now.
Yeah.
So
I'll run when I need to. Yeah, now.
Sort of not a girl, but not yet a woman.
Once my kids are grown and can take care of themselves, I'll go right back to like smashing my face into a wall. Yeah.
I'm sure the walls are excited and counting down the days.
And don't let me win the lottery, because it's just practical jokes on entire governments for the rest of my life. Planning out $1 million, $2 million, $10 million jokes on entire governments.
Which is what our Kickstarter is for. So we'll put the link in the description. We're looking for a $340 million goal.
Let's do it.
Hollywood, yes, had a bit to do with that. But even if they didn't, I think there's something to be said for this idea that we have no sympathy for these folks, right? They're wretched, they're evil, they shoot up schools, they shoot up movie theaters, whatever that is, right? But I don't think it's about being sympathetic to those people as individuals. I think it's about understanding how they got there. And these are questions that we're not asking.
No.
And that's, I think, kind of what you're talking about with this, Trump, what would you call it? The Trump squad, the Trump group, the Trump tribe.
Just call it what everybody's been calling it, Trump derangement syndrome.
But isn't Trump derangement system more the folks who are put off by him more than anything? Because I would argue that the people who sound the least sane when they're talking about him are usually the people who are not in support of him.
Yeah, derangement syndrome.
But what I'm talking about, the people who were sort of forced into becoming that terrorist that you talk about, right? When you're talking, when you call someone a racist for so long, they go, well, I might as well be a racist.
Okay, so like the Trump supporter that becomes racist.
Yeah, the MAGA crowd.
Yeah. Right? I don't think that any of us went into this thinking, oh, Trump's the genius, right? Some of us came out of the other side thinking that, right? I went into it thinking, holy shit, if Herman Cain becomes his vice president, every public speaking event will be hilarious. That's what I thought. Rest in peace, Herman Cain. But this is the slowest speaking dude ever. So
that's talk radio. You got to fill the dead
safely. There's some nuts out there. I mean, how funny would that be?
In Stupidville, he says. There are some nuts out there in Stupidville.
Man, that would have been funny. God, I wish that would have happened.
Herman, come back to us.
Yeah, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And his t-shirts were amazing. Vote. Rock me like a Herman Cain. That's hilarious.
I'm calling it right now. That is the title of this episode.
So, you're looking at all these people who voted for Trump or were like, holy shit, the establishment's really out to get this guy. And I need to support him because they're out to get me too. That's the part of this that speaks to me. A person who doesn't believe in government at all. Where I'm like, this was a joke to me. This was a comical joke to me that Trump won, right? I got to watch the establishment squirm, right? But then when they attacked him, to be honest with you, completely honest with all of you, I felt a little bit like I was being attacked because I know that I'm not acceptable more than he's not acceptable. I know that whatever they did to him, they would do tenfold to me.
Yeah, he plays by more rules than you do.
Right. So I was like, I almost wanted, if it wasn't for my principled belief system, I would have supported him, I think. Because my tribal instinct wanted to. Every time that he got attacked, my tribal instinct wanted to.
Well, and I think it goes without saying that there are a large number of people who voted for Trump but would not consider themselves Trump supporters, right?
Yeah.
I would say probably the majority of the people who voted for him.
Yeah, I mean, anyone you asked on TV would say that, even if they were a Trump supporter. Because, I mean, that's what made it so funny with the polls, right?
But it's an interesting analog that when you talk about these things, right? Because that side, the Trump, the Herman Cain, the all that, it is very similar to what you talk about with Bluelet's coming on, and you're like, haha, got him. Because Herman Cain, as we know, he died whether due to complications with COVID or just died having COVID, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There was a resounding joy from an entire swath of people at his death in the same way that folks would be elated that someone who ran a red light got pulled over.
Yeah.
The idea that I had to play this game, I couldn't go outside, I had to wear a mask, you died, it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
now, granted, he did have throat and lung cancer and beat it, and he was
again.
Yeah.
Again, I think we're on the same page there as far as like what actually killed him. But
yeah.
the fact that he was written off as a COVID death and people took
joy, yeah.
People were happy, like not just happy, but elated. They were elated by the death of another person because that person.
And I'm going to say it the way they said it in their friend atmosphere, because I've been in it, right? The right token black guy died. Now, who are they going to point to when they say they're not racist? That's exactly what they were saying, because I was at the parties.
Right.
Because believe it or not, the fact that I disagree with Republicans makes Democrats think that I'm on their side. I get calls from both sides. They don't know what to fucking think about me. They don't tell them. I don't tell your average person that I'm anarchist, ANCAP, right? I just go, yeah, I'm against that, or yeah, I'm for that. And they're like, oh, he's on my side, or he's not on my side. Or just ask somebody running for alderman around me, like, all right, what are your principles? Well, I believe that everybody should be peaceful and love each other, and people should have money. So how are you going to get there? Well, you know, we are the richest nation in the world. Why don't people have money? Well, first you're going to have to tell me that, you know, prove to me that people don't have money to like go through this conversation. And then she's like, well, I mean, you just said that's like your core belief. So you've got to have like a swath of people that you believe don't have money, and you've got a way to get them money, right? That's what I run into. That's your politics today.
Well, wishing death upon someone is kind of the ultimate cancel, right?
Yeah.
It's the ultimate cancel culture, because Herman Cain was a part of a tribe that protected him from being canceled for that, right? Because no one on the MAGA crowd can get canceled, right? Because they're free from that. So the joy had to wait until the ultimate cancel, which was he had to leave the earth.
He's fucking dead. It's so, and then I get the people on the right calling me like, oh, I'm so sad that Herman died. Did you go to his fish fry? I did.
Yeah.
There's fucking pictures of it. Right? In fact, one of our good friends, like that's his, whenever he calls me, it's him standing next to not Herman Cain, but like who was it?
Neil Bortz.
No, it was another dude who ran for president, who was a Speaker of the House at one point. The fuck's that guy's name?
Newt.
Oh, Newt. Yeah, Newt. You're right. Yeah, he was standing next to Newt Gingrich. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I've been going to politics things. You've been going to them. They're ridiculous. The whole thing. No matter what side you're on, right?
Well,
but yeah, he's dead, and these people rejoice in that, and I think it is a lot exactly what you're saying. Like I'm happy that they got pulled over because I'm playing by these rules. This guy says that masks are stupid, or that we're making a bigger deal about it than we should because we're going to hurt more people by doing this than this. And that's where I'm talking about weighing your options, weighing your risk, right? And that's where people should have their own free will. Because, I think that COVID is more important to my family, right? Than having money, than my car, than my house, than my, let's fucking lose our house. Who cares, right? Or, our risk of hitting it's really low. So I'm going to make sure that my family stays on top of the socioeconomic ladder, right? It's my fucking choice to make. That's what America was supposed to be. That's what everybody who joins the military says they're defending, but they're not. They're fucking taking that away from you. That's what they do. You join the military, all you do is fucking police your own people and take their choices away. Or police other countries' people and take their choices away. You're not defending liberty anymore. Maybe there was one time that we had people joining the U.S. military that we actually did that. They've been living off them coattails way too fucking long. Let's stop it. Join a goddamn militia. That'll get you fucking canceled. Maybe we just got canceled. And what, they took down, 2 militias recently? The police provoked them into a battle and then called them the bad guys.
Well, and taking that to its logical conclusion, is it not worth just boiling it down to why don't you just worry about yourself? Because so much of it sounds like you're worried, because when I think about the average person who wants to cancel Gina Carano,
Yeah.
it's not someone who is fiercely independent. It is someone who has curated their own Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, such that they say all of the right things and have been meticulous about towing the party line and have said all the right things. And then she doesn't play the game at all. And that has got to be infuriating. In fact, it might be someone who's steers clear of social media because they're afraid of what they might say. Yes. And they wish that they had the gall to say something that they actually believed on the internet.
So, and I'd like to introduce another thought activity that you can do with yourself to help yourself avoid these same mistakes in your thoughts. Because our tribal brains will always bring us to these weird conclusions that we know aren't right? And you have to you have to stop and take 2 steps back and go, like, that person just said something rude to me first thing in the morning. They're normally not rude to me, right? I bet some fucked up shit happened to them first thing. Like, you have to think about all the times that you jumped off on somebody when you shouldn't have, right? And say, what brought me to that point? I wonder if that is what's going on here, right? If it's not affecting you, like your personal property, your money, like your job opportunities, whatever, like if it's just a, slap in your face because it is what it is, it's just something rude, right? If you step back and you think about it like that, you go, oh shit, I've kind of done that to somebody under these. And then you can go, hey man, did this happen? And if it did, like, it's such a relief to that person. And like somebody understands what they're going through and you help them to not make those mistakes in the future during that day. And if it's not, then you just know that person's a dick. I mean, it's so helpful to do that. And it takes a lot of self-control to do that. But please try it. Everybody listening, please try it. Because if you can look at let's just do it. Let's say I can't do it to anybody else but my spouse. You wouldn't believe how much it'll improve the relationship between you and your spouse. To try to look at the situation that you're in through their point of view first. The things that happen in their day to get them to where they're at. Why they're acting, irrational in your eyes, right? It'll help whatever you're going through.
Well, I think it's also a shift in the perspective that you have on the world, right? So it's not just a shift in perspective toward how you treat others, but also how you perceive the world. Because you said something that I think was really interesting, the idea that it's not affecting you, it's not affecting your job or your job prospects. I think people truly do believe that it is because there is this scarcity mentality, the idea that there can only be so many successful people, there can only be so much money, right? There's all this narrative around there's no such thing as, a legitimate billionaire, right? The idea that no one should be a billionaire. What does that even mean? That's next week's episode right there. So the idea of scarcity as opposed to abundance, I think that perspective alone would change a lot of that, right? The idea that there's enough for everyone. So why would you be worried about someone taking your job or taking your place, right? That's what jealousy is thinking that someone has something that's rightfully yours, that you're coveting.
So we can get into what real economics is and what Keynesian economics, which is, I mean, in true, economic philosophy today, and like your real thinkers, Keynesian economics is debunked. And granted, that is what the governments go on right now, but it's only because they give the government's Keynesian economics gives the government's power, right? But like anybody who's respected in economics, Keynesian economics is, no good, right? And we can get into that probably in the next episode. I mean, I have so much to talk about on that. And if you want to know more than I could ever teach you, listen to anything Bob Murphy puts out on his podcast. Go back into an archive and listen to Contra Krugman, which was he is a Keynesian economics Nobel Prize winner. Yeah, even that, right? He's wrong on almost everything he's ever talked about in his entire life as an economist. And he's got an article in the Times. So, yeah. Contra Krugman, amazing series that Tom Woods and Bob Murphy put out. I wish it was still going, but I understand why it's not. And hopefully if cruises ever start happening again, there will be the Contra Krugman cruise happening again. Because we all know I want to go on that. Anyway, so economics, if you study any legitimate form of economics, you know that there isn't any set amount of wealth. There may be a set amount of money, which would be better than not a set amount of money. But the wealth that money, I don't know, it's a word I'm looking for, but the wealth that money instills in whatever it does, right, is fluctuating. So if you have this protectionist point of view that we're talking about today, you're not just affecting, the party that you're speaking. You're affecting everybody in the world to stifle innovation or anything. Say I'm using my money this way, and you think I should be using it that way, and you stop it. But I've already spent it over here, and now that's illegal. So all that money's wasted, and then this money's got to go. It doesn't matter if that was a less efficient way for me to spend it over here. You've made the entire world poorer by stopping that. It needed to run its course, because even if it wasn't the most efficient way, it was going to teach the world through the free market the right way to go with their money. And it wasn't going to be a complete waste, because there was going to be something out of it, right? So people think about things in $1,200 here, and this person's got $1,200. Dollars don't mean shit. Wealth is what means shit.
Well, what we teach those people is exactly what creates billionaires, right? The idea that there is no static amount of money, there is no static amount of dollars. So if I'm at the top of that stack or anywhere near it, then I'm going to continue to try and be on the top of that, because over time, if I just stick all of that in a mattress, it goes away, right? So those very systems that we've created have spawned that very attitude. But the idea that there's not enough is absurd, because there's more than enough and continues to be more than enough. So if you take that perspective and apply it not only to the world around you, but like you say, start at home. Start with the way that you look at your spouse, the way that you looked at your loved ones, your family, even those family who are maybe toxic, and you might need to, figure out a balance of where they actually fit into your life. But overall, exercising the idea that they might not be taking your job or taking up your space in this world or taking your wealth.
Yeah.
Where did they come from?
It's amazing when you step back and you go, holy shit, look at the real wealth that's being wasted. When you really know what wealth is, because a little brain exercise, say there's $12 in the world. 12, that's it. What changes? Let's say computers are being innovated faster than they are today. Houses are becoming 10 times better than they ever were with every house. Cars are just, I mean, the last car I bought wasn't even close to the car I just got, right? There's only $12 to disperse to all of these people. What's the difference? What if you $12 is the same thing as saying 12 trillion, right? It doesn't matter how many dollars you have in your wallet. It matters what that can get you. So for every dollar that's spent on you or me, we need to be productive in that. Because the more productive we are for the dollar that we make, the richer the entire world gets. I'm not saying to slave yourself out for $2. I'm just saying, like, don't take a job working for the government where you're not giving back to the world. Please try not to. And I am speaking from a hypocritical point of view because half of my family income comes from a government job. And my wife doesn't believe the same way I do. And I don't force my beliefs onto my wife. I just let her know what they are. And yes, she has, if you say, I think your job's immoral and makes people starve to death, people who believe in their jobs take it personally. And I've had to answer for that a few times, right? And it's caused some issues, but I was also here when she took the government job. So I was like, if you feel that's what you want to do, then you do it. But I went and got a private job. Good one. Grew a company into a giant corporation, sold it, made the owner millions. He lives on an island now. You know what I mean? Like,
But in some ways, that is you practicing what you preach, because you were trying to understand where she was coming from. You were trying to be empathetic and understanding in the way that no one is now, when everyone just gets canceled and written off. So
right.
Even though you absolutely do disagree with whatever that governing body is and whatever system it is that she's attached to,
Mm-hmm.
you are doing right by her by supporting her in her decisions.
And I do believe that she is misguidedly trying to make it better. I absolutely believe that. I think that she thinks that she can do it. But I also see her getting shot down constantly. I don't think that my wife will ever say ANCAP was the right way. Right? But I do see her living in Saipan and going, well, this is where her family is now. But no, you weren't right. Like,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like, bombs are blowing up in the U.S. We're in Saipan. Like, all right, we're cool.
Which takes some capital to make happen, right? So I guess maybe that's a good note to end on. How much money do you have to not worry about being canceled?
I think that's a indefinite amount of wealth because I don't speak in forms of money. So,
Capital.
yeah. So, I don't know, man. I think I'm there. I mean, I'm unemployed. I make nothing, but my skill set and my worth to people who do want to make money is at a point in my life where I know that no matter where I go, I'm good. I know how to do that. And if nobody else wants to do it, I'll do it. And then I'll just use my own skill set, you know? But I would like to bring in some more online money. So that's a great segue into supporting listeners. If you want to donate, please send email.
Yeah.
Yeah, email to fake safety pod.com, and we will set up a Patreon. I know you guys probably, most hardcore of you do not want to do Patreon, and we're new to this, so if you haven't noticed by the audio quality, we are new to this, and we will set up something where you can do preferably crypto. Yeah, we need to do crypto because we're not trying to get our families, black banned or anything like that. I'm big into gun ownership. I have quite an arsenal, and I will always have one, whether they take it or not. I have subscribed to a lot of secret organizations that I can print 12 gauges. So, fuck you. I'm always going to have a fucking arsenal. So, kiss my ass, whoever you are. Yeah, we don't want our doors kicked in, our kids scared, our wives going, "What the fuck are you doing? I thought you were just talking shit and playing guitar." That's not what we're doing.
No. So I think what Vance meant there is fakesafetypod@gmail.com.
Fuck.
The site is fakesafety.com. And we will be putting up some crypto links soon enough.
What did I say?
I believe you said fakesafetypod.com.
Fuck me.
Which is probably a website that's not taken. So I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, maybe we'll own that too. Maybe we'll own the whole fucking world. You never know. Listen to us. Give us thumbs up. 5 stars. Maybe we'll be the next Bezos. What's his fucking name? How do you pronounce it?
Oh, it's pronounced Jeff.